Evolution of .NET. There it is. You can end the video right now. The name doesn't matter. Today we will talk about the beginning years of .NET and C#. The purpose of this video is to explain the difference between the platform, .NET Core, and transitional cross-platform implementation of the .NET technology. We'll also discuss .NET Framework, a legacy implementation of .NET. Let's start with C#. C# 1.0 was released in 2002 and is a multi-paradigm general-purpose programming language designed by Microsoft. Although initially designed to be an object-oriented language, it developed over time to become multi-paradigm programming language. What is an object-oriented language? OOP is a software paradigm based on the object. Object is a software entity that encapsulates data fields, only allowing specific behavior called methods to interact with specific objects. The main four pillars of OOP are abstraction, hiding the implementation details of an object, exposing only essential features. Encapsulation bundles data and methods into a single unit called class and restricts direct access to the internal state. Inheritance allows a class to be called a child, gaining properties and methods from another class called a parent. And polymorphism enables objects of different types to be treated uniformly through a common interface. Designed by Microsoft, some of the notable figures include Anders Hejlsberg, systems architect and programmer known for designing C# and TypeScript, as well as Delphi. Scott Wiltemuth, product group general and product manager responsible for designing the C# language, as well as building tools for .NET, visual tools for Visual Studio. Peter Gold led the implementation of the C# compiler. Design goals of C#: the language to be simple, modern, general purpose, and object-oriented. Include garbage collection, not compete with size and performance of C and assembly language. Source code should be portable, and to be used in both distributed and embedded environments. During the early years of C#, it had the nickname of Microsoft Java, as it closely resembled Java, the most popular language around the early 2000s. Introduction of .NET Framework. Released February 13, 2002, .NET Framework is a proprietary software framework developed by Microsoft that runs primarily on Microsoft Windows. Windows Vista was the first client version of Windows to be integrated with the .NET Framework. All Windows versions after Vista maintain the level of integration with .NET Framework. January 16, 2008, the source code of the .NET Framework became available under Microsoft Reference Source License. .NET Framework lasted until major version 4.8, having the most recent update on the 9th of August 2022, as of this video. .NET Framework is part of the Windows operating system and will be maintained for the foreseeable future. Most major development on the .NET Framework has stopped. However, security updates as well as updates allowing for Windows to be moved onto different platforms such as ARM continues. Difference between .NET Framework, .NET Core, and .NET. .NET Core 1.0, released with C# 6, was released in June 27, 2016. .NET Core is a new open source implementation of the .NET Framework, adopting an open source model over the proprietary one that .NET Framework was known for. .NET Core was designed to simplify the standard library of .NET and move away from the Microsoft license. Starting November 10, 2020, the naming of .NET Core was scrapped and .NET 5 was introduced. This started the current trend of releasing a new major version every year, where every even number version had long-term support for 3 years and odd number standard term support, STS, for 1.5 to 2 years. And this is the diagram showing the main differences between the versions. Best way to think about it is that .NET is the current up-to-date modern implementation of the framework. .NET Framework is a legacy Windows-only stable enterprise framework, and .NET Core is a deprecated transitional period from .NET Framework to .NET 5 onwards. C# set the standard for async await asynchronous programming paradigm with async tasks. It was the first mainstream language to add nullable value types in C# 2.0. It added language integrated query, LINQ, in C# 3.0, allowing for more efficient data querying of objects. Async await. How C# set the standard? First, it integrated async into the language, not just the library. Before C# 5 in 2012, async programming was callback heavy. A callback is a function you pass into another function so that it can be executed later, often after an event or operation completes. C# introduced async await as language keywords, so the compiler rewrote code into state machines automatically. This removed boilerplate and made async look straight-line synchronous code. The following code in the example given, defining an async task with a return type of string, get data async, just defines an HTTP client and defines git string async as getting youtube.com, and it returns the result. This compiles into a full state machine with continuation handling. Developer writes free lines and compiler handles the complex part, unified across the entire ecosystem. C# made async await work seamlessly with .NET task-based model, task and task generic T, UI frameworks such as WPF WinForms via synchronization context, and ASP.NET request pipeline. This consistency meant everything behaves predictably without framework-specific hacks, safe by default. Async await automatically propagates exceptions, normally try-catch works, avoids callback hell, and prevents deadlocks common in event-based async pattern, an example of exception handling. It also influenced other languages. After C#, other languages adopted similar patterns. JavaScript added async await in 2017, Python added async await 3.5+, and Rust added async await in 2019. Most followed the same mental model of async marks a function as asynchronous, await pauses it without blocking a thread. Why did it become the standard? Cleanest syntax for async at the time, compiler generated state machines reduced human error, predictable semantics across UI, server, and libraries, strong ecosystem adoption, Microsoft tooling, libraries documentation, and influential scale, millions of .NET developers. LINQ. Language Integrated Query, LINQ, is a Microsoft .NET Framework component that adds native data querying to .NET languages. Originally released as part of .NET Framework 3.5 in 2007. LINQ allows for single query syntax, learn one syntax and use it for objects, databases, XML, and more. Compile time type checking, and IntelliSense support. Deferred execution, meaning queries run only when iterated. Benefits of LINQ include uniformity, safety, readability, and extensibility. Legacy of .NET Framework. It brought C#, VB.NET, ASP.NET, WinForms, and WPF under one runtime. It is the birthplace of .NET ecosystem. C# added features such as LINQ, generics, and async await that influenced Java, Kotlin, and others. And enterprise reliability and legacy support still used to this day. What's new in C# 14? Null conditional assignments, the field keyword, implicit span conversions. What's new in .NET 10? Supported for 3 years as a long-term support release. .NET MAUI supporting Android API levels 35 and 36, being Android 15 and 16 respectively. Entity Framework Core 10 editions, vector search support added, and JSON type support. And general performance improvements and bug fixes relating to C#, F#, Visual Basic, Entity Framework, and other related technologies. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Or else.